So I think the answer is it's not knowable. So the trends are a given, they're immutable, they're here, they're present, they're powerful, right? So disruption is going to happen. Asymmetry in wealth and erosion of middle class is going to happen. Age differences are going to happen, right? So they're here. The future is actually how we choose to respond to it, right? And actually, because of the level of uncertainty and dynamism that's created by those forces, the response is going to be pretty bubbly, pretty squirrely. And so I think, so I'd bet the trend, and I'd manage the future. I think there's sort of three implications for organizations. The first is solve today's problem with the future in mind. Right. One of the challenges we have today is that the issues just seem so acute. You feel like you're going from emergency to emergency to emergency, right? And so you end up managing the tactical and actually setting yourself up for a worse future because you haven't brought the future into the present, right? So I think the issue is be strategic in how you deal with crisis, right? But deal with the crisis, deal with the urgent opportunity or the urgent challenge. Second one is that actually think about the individuals involved in the process, because we're creating a level of anxiety that's actually kind of challenging, right? And so for me, one of the things to have in mind is think about your workforce as if they were your kids, right? Because you wouldn't do some of the things we're doing to our workforce to our kids, right? And so empathize about the impact you're having on the people in terms of the things you're doing, what you're doing, because it turns out in most organizations, they're at the heart of what creates value for the firm. And I think the third is sort of go back to your roots or remember why you're here. Because in times that change as much as this, the thing you have to have ballast, right? And the ballast is actually sort of, so why were we here in the first place? And then therefore, how to reconfigure who we are in light of the changes, but there's this constancy of, we add value to society. There's a reason people want to work for us, because we're here for a pretty compelling reason. So one of the things we're seeing is many firms, right, actually having their strategic challenge radically different from what it was, right? So an organization that actually was a server-based software on a computer, sitting massive supportive individual companies, right? Having to figure out, how do I move to the cloud immediately? Because if I don't, I'm out of business, right? The interesting thing is when you make that kind of big change, two circumstances happen. The first is you actually have to go back and revisit your purpose, right? In a fundamental way, because that change, you could lose your ballast if you don't, right? You can actually sort of start wandering as you make the adoption, but sort of say, you know what, why are we here? And actually, so are we actually B2C or are we B2B, right? Do we serve institutions or not? Because if we do, we'll do it differently than if we serve a consumer base, right? So simple questions about who are we and why are we here? And then the second one is that when you make that kind of big a shift, the human resource function becomes really strategic, because the fundamental problem you have is the capabilities necessary to do the new thing don't exist in the present system, right? You're the best of class in something which is no longer relevant. You therefore have to move to become competitive in something that's dramatically different, right? You can't just wash everybody out, so you have a major capabilities reconstruction issue, which puts HR right at the center of it. And I think the best organizations that have made that kind of adaptation, you see those two principles apply again and again and again.